Alrighty, folks. Well, hello and welcome once again to the Maximum Performance webinar series. This week's event, we are focusing on tools, strategies, and resources that are going to help you continue to accelerate your growth as a mortgage professional and help you get more out of mobile. Of course, I'm joined with today's program. Of course, my name is Erik Janeczko. I'm the head coach and CEO of Maximum Acceleration, the professionals coaching company, and of course we launched this series in October of 2012 as an opportunity to bring folks together that were committed to taking the business to the next level and creating a learning environment and a community of learning here. I think we've done a great job establishing that, as we typically have audiences as well over 200 plus attendees regularly on these types of events. We're excited to be bringing to you a real hot topic in today's market, which is how to make more with mobile marketing and practical realities of what mobile marketing is all about. Of course, we're joined by mobile marketing expert Matt Hansen, who is the founder and designer and lead programmer for a company called SimpleNexus, who is our sponsor for today's program as well. And through the course of today's program, we're going to be talking in depth about what it really takes to get the most out of a mobile app. I mean, if you think about the development of technology over the last 15 years in our industry. I mean, you think back to when I started in the business back in 1996, websites had just come out, and they were the new flashy thing that everybody wanted. By 2002, 2003, when I left retail, it was pretty much a business necessity. You weren't considered a credible originator or a true professional or company if you didn't have a website. The next generation of that was, was email marketing, and now it's becoming commonplace where mobile apps are somewhat of a fad. I think a lot of originators are trying to get their hands around how to be competitive with a mobile app and how to use a mobile app. But it's great to have a mobile application for yourself or your company, but then what do you do with it, and how does that help you grow your business? And that's what I've asked our guest presenter here to share with us today. Now, part of the reason I'm going to go and introduce this, and I'll have Matt jump in here and start taking over the presentation in just a second, but I wanted to share with you some of the reasons why I wanted Matt to join us in today's program. You've heard me many, many times talk about how we elevate our credibility and how we differentiate ourselves at first point of contact, point of sale, through the course of the webinar series. I mean, if we think about how we create value, what does value really mean? Well, value in a mathematical equation means value equals benefit minus cost. So if we're going to really differentiate ourselves, particularly when it comes to, like, for example, working with business development partners like realtors, it's great to have this cool thing called an app, but how does that actually benefit how does that raise the benefit or provide more value for that realtor? And that's one of those reasons why we want to begin to think about how we can collaborate and use tools, resources, and materials like a mobile marketing app to enhance. So not only are we going to be talking about some of the basics of mobile marketing and some of the fundamentals of what you need to do to be successful in mobile marketing, we're going to talk about how to get more loans out of that. And a lot of this comes down to one basic concept, which is partnership. And you've also heard me in this series share many times about the importance of thinking beyond just the typical tit-for-tat, you send me a deal, I'll send you a deal, referral relationship. One of the best ways I've ever found to describe what I really mean by a true partnership goes back to something I did in high school. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, just west of St. Louis area, and of course every Christmas parade and Thanksgiving Day parade we had these Budweiser Clydesdales. I'm always fascinated by these draft horses. These are massive animals, 20, 22 hands high, just gigantic monsters. Them. And one of the things I found out is back around the turn of the last century, there was a group of scientists studying what these horses could do. They eventually called it the horsepower studies because they were trying to come up with a unit of measure for a large amount of force. At the time, the primary work resource was draft horses, right? So they were doing weight sled testing that one horse could pull about 12,000 pounds of pull. Well, obviously, if you had 2 horses, you'd have at least double the results. But the scientists ran into one specific problem. When they scaled the study up, they ran into a challenge because they realized that when they hitched them together, the record is over 108,000 pounds of pull. Excuse me, 104,000 pounds of pull, or roughly 8 times the results of one pulling by himself. And part of it comes down to that they're totally in alignment, they're totally focused, and they're working together as a unified team. So let's take a look at what that looks like with the typical loan officer-realtor relationship. You know, through our own initiatives, the realtors and us as the loan officer are able to generate independently 12 to 15 leads a month. Well, that's 30 leads a month, right, that could be shared back and forth. But what if we work together and we create true alignment that allows us to achieve a common goal together? Well, if the same sort of leverage is created or results can be achieved, we'd be talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 leads a month. Well, how do we create that? Well, by the way, some of you may be thinking that's not even remotely possible, and you may be thinking I'm completely insane for you thinking that that's a reasonable approach. But let me ask you to suspend that belief for just a few minutes and ask the question, if it was possible, what would it look like? And try and remain in that thought process throughout the remainder of today's program, because I know that my guest presenter is going to share a lot of powerful ideas with you that will help you really create that 120 leads, that 8 times result leverage. Well, the other thing you have to begin to realize is that there's some mechanical and physics principles in play with the 2 draft horses. The reason the horses are able to pull about 8 times the results is partly because of a little concept called leverage. And I know you guys have heard that term in business many times. In fact, in some cases, it's probably become a bit of a cliche. But the practical reality is it's a simple machine. I mean, in a lever, you have a bar and a pivot point. And, of course, if that pivot point's right in the middle, I'm not getting a whole lot of results, right? I push down with 100 pounds of force on this side. I get 100 pounds of lift on this side. It's not really working for me. But if I shift that thing just a couple of feet to one side, all of a sudden 100 pounds of force over here gives me 1,000 pounds of lift over here because I've got a 5-to-1 mechanical advantage, right? So using tools like a mobile app and collaborating with our potential business development partners like realtors, CPAs, financial planners, insurance agents, etc., give us an opportunity to make a much bigger impact with significantly less effort. And that's where we create that true collaboration. And a lot of it comes down to a real simple concept we call the law of caring. You know, you've all heard the concept of people won't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And again, that's one of those things that you got to be careful not to dismiss, because if it's been repeated often enough to be ignored, isn't it fundamentally true? I mean, maybe think about it in reverse for a moment. If it weren't fundamentally true, would it have been repeated often enough to be ignored or considered to be trite? Well, there's a bonus law of caring as well. And one of the things that we got to begin to realize and recognize and understand that if we want to create massive separation, and if we want to be distinctly different than all the other loan officers out there that are promising great rates, good service, quick turn times, and all the other promises that most loan officers make and fail to keep to realtors that realtors don't believe or trust anyway, we've got to be substantially more valuable to them, value that far exceeds one transaction. We got to begin to stop thinking about how to help them get deals done and start thinking about how to help more deals. Part of the reason that we can do that is we have that outside perspective opportunity, because the reality is we don't know what we don't know until somebody cares enough to show us. So as I transition into and as I begin to let Mr. Matt Hansen take over here and share with us how his tool can become a strategic asset to helping you help your realtors do substantially more business. I want to introduce Matt just really quickly. Matt is the founder and CEO of SimpleNexus, which started as a little bit of a garage project. If I remember exactly, Matt, what you were sharing with me. I mean, originally, you were a come from an engineering and computer design and programming background. You were a lead tech on a number of different very successful projects outside the mortgage industry, and you started building apps and websites for people in the mortgage industry that were friends, and it grew and blossomed, and you got referred to so many people that it actually became a company by accident, kind of, didn't it? Well, with that expertise and that experience, I'm sure you've got a lot of ideas and concepts to share. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take over here. Share what you have to share with us and our audience today, please.
Thanks, Eric. The company started really as a favor for my brother-in-law. He came to me and wanted an app, and I said, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. And it was just a little basic, very very basic app, not really that intelligent. And so we created that, and then my mom wanted one, and another brother-in-law wanted one, and then their coworkers wanted them, and it just it grew a little bit out of control. So that's how this all started. So I'm surrounded by loan officers, but I'm not one. So but it's all in the family. But yeah, that's where we're at now. I guess I'll just kind of start in and say just a little note about SimpleNexus. What we do is we help you generate more leads by providing a tool that you can share with anyone, anywhere, at any time, and then you can help nurture those leads that you can acquire yourself and have partners acquire for you to turn into loans. And then we'll show a little bit what we can do with loans once they're in that point, briefly once we get in here. But I'm going to also talk a little bit about just some of the other tools in mobile, just some things outside of our own that I think are useful to people, and I'd love to have anybody chat me or call or email me at any time. I'll be happy to go through them. So what I'm going to do here is discuss the overview a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about how you can become Siri's preferred lender. Everybody's heard of Siri. You've heard of the Google version of Siri, and so somebody could go in and talk on their phone and say, find me a loan officer, or find me the best loan officer. It's going to search their local searches and local ratings to find out who to recommend to that person. Artificial intelligence is getting better, and it's at this point it's still really not very hard to leverage that and be at the front. If you get at the front, it's easier to stay at the front. Next, we've got QR codes. Everybody has heard of QR codes. Some of us know what they are. Some of us know where to use them. We'll just touch on QR codes. We'll touch a little bit on how you can use QR codes. Believe it or not, there are methods out there of generating QR codes and using QR codes where your QR code might stop working, or it might start displaying ads to people. We want to help you avoid that, so we'll touch on that. We'll talk a little bit about how to make your website mobile. There's a very basic tool, very simple tool out there. There are a few of them, but there's one that I think is very good in particular. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll talk a little bit about mobile compliance. Some of the concepts really apply across technology as a whole, but I'll touch on the things that the compliance departments generally want to see from us when we're working with a company at a large scale. Then we'll talk a little bit about about push notifications in apps and how they can help you nurture leads to turn into loans, and how you can harvest more loans based on your current customers who are happy. So Siri, this is as we talked about, kind of a new thing, but I mean, at first I thought, well, it's kind of a novelty, but out of convenience, I keep finding myself using it more and more, because I can I want to know some detail, and I can talk to my phone, and it's going to tell me the exact answer instantly. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that when somebody asks for you, they can find you. Now with Siri, there are a few things that Siri is going to look at in particular where you want to get listed at the top. You want to make sure that people know where to find you. And the way that you do this is by going to, let's say, a site like getlisted.org. Erik, is it possible for me to have control or for my screen to show for a second?
Yeah, I can push it over to where we can see your screen for just a second. Bear with me 2 seconds, guys, while I get this switched around. Matt, go ahead and continue speaking if you can while I flip this around where we can show your screen. But go ahead and, all right, you should be able to be presenter now.
Okay. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show, is everybody able to see my screen there?
Yep, I've got it.
Okay, great. So if you go to getlisted.org, honestly, I'm not actually positive about what they charge. But let's say, okay, yeah, I want to check my listing score. I'm going to say Greystone Mortgage. And if we go and search this, this is going to go and find out how you do on SEO locally. And SEO locally is where you want to rank well, not only for yourself and for the phone, but really across across even websites. So this can apply for a lot of places across the board. Now, when you look up your rankings here, it's going to tell you a score, and it's going to be a variety of things. In this case, Yelp is missing. Yelp is important. Yelp is very important. In fact, it's the site that Siri uses the most to find out how they want to display you or how to rank you against your competitors. It's going to give you an incomplete. It's going to want things like photos and descriptions. It may say, oh, well, there's a website that seems to be not related to this address, so let's make sure that we clean those up. But overall, just a very helpful tool. And Erik, if you want to switch back, I think we're good here.
Okay, great. Takes a little bit of coordination to do this.
I kind of surprised Erik here, so sorry about that, Erik.
That's all right. We got it going on here, so let me just make sure that right screen showing.
I can see your screen.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right. Now the only other question is, can you control it? Because I know I had given you the driver's seat here. So Matt, can you advance slides? Are you capable of doing that still?
Looks like I may have control. So we're just
okay. Cool.
We're just
Good.
waiting for the screen to advance here.
Now let me step you one forward real quick.
Okay. Yep.
All right. So the next part of the conversation, Matt, that you're going to share with the audience a little bit about QR codes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So QR codes, they're very useful, but in the right context. So these are just some samples of QR codes, just for fun here. These all work. They have different names. There's QR art. There's Aztec codes. There are a lot of times. But the idea really with the QR codes is that you want to use them where they're useful. And if you want to advance there, okay, it looks like I got it, or you did, one of us. So what can they be used for? All kinds of things. I'm gonna breeze through these pretty quick. But these are just a listing of some of the things that QR codes can be used for. Some of the things that maybe you didn't realize it could be used for. From a standpoint of where I think they're useful, business cards are great, and maybe some places where you need to connect the person back to technology. If you're putting, let's say, a QR code on your email signature, that's a place where I would say maybe it's a little less useful, because 50% of the time people are viewing email from their phone already. So the likelihood of them scanning your QR code from their phone that they're already using to view the email with is unlikely, since they can't actually scan it from there. And the other thing is if somebody's already got their email up on their computer, well then it might work. But there are places that are more useful maybe than others. So we've got, maybe you can say scan to see current rates. Maybe that would just go to a link, like QR codes are most often used for. Maybe it'll say scan to get my app that will help you get some benefit. There are all kinds of benefits that you could give to people. You can have a lot of advantages if you use them in the right way. But there's certainly,
Matt, let me go ahead and jump in here, guys. One of the things that Matt and I struggled with, and I'll tell you, all of you, I'm going to be, you guys know that I'm pretty transparent, and one of the things that I struggled with is when I started noticing all these different mortgage apps popping up, and maybe you guys are experiencing the same thing I was, which is there's a lot of different companies out there providing apps, and it was really hard for me to figure out what was the difference between one app and another. Well, one of the things I realized that Matt and that SimpleNexus does that most of the other apps don't do is they can help you be a front-end engagement. And they spend a lot of time and energy working with their clients to really help enhance how you actually get people to use the app. Because it's one thing if the customer, the borrower, or the realtor have their app on their phone, but how do you get them to get it on their phone? Well, QR codes are one of the best ways to do that. But go back to Marketing 101. Go back to when you first started working with trying to do email marketing, or when you first started trying to do Facebook advertising with social media. You've got to have an offer of something that has value to the audience you're promoting it to, enough that they'll do what you want them to do. So like, for example, with Facebook advertising, if you went back to the monetizing social media program we did back in March and April with one of our other resource partners with mysmartblog.com, he talked a lot, Michael Erdman talked a lot about the importance of having an irresistible offer, something like an ebook that they could download. So like, for example, if your QR link downloads your app, which is also a way that a borrower can get pre-qualified or get started down the path of finding out what they qualify for, that would be the kind of offer you would want to make in your QR code. Scan my app to get a no-cost, no-obligation home opportunity review, right? That we've talked about over the last couple of sessions, but basically QR codes are one of the best ways to get people to want to download your mobile app. So the more literature that you could get a QR code on, the more times that you can attach it to things that will be near a borrower when they might likely be out and about with their phone, as opposed to sitting at their home or their office on their computer, that's when you would want to use a QR code, like the business card and the digital business card kind of thing. So like at trade shows, on flyers that you might leave in an open house, on stuff like that. That's where you would want to use the QR code to get people to want to download your app. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks. It just kind of reminded me of something that I saw when I went to the grocery store the other day. And when I went to the grocery store, they had a sign out on the shopping cart return that said, "Don't forget to bring your green grocery bag, the reusable grocery bag." And I thought, that's kind of funny, because they're reminding you at the time that you can't do anything about it. And that's what we want to do, is we want to get these kinds of things in front of people at the moment that they can take action.
Exactly. So And again, that reinforces exactly what Matt's been saying. Now, Matt, I know you also had a little bit of a nitty-gritty, how do you get a decent mobile app? And by the way, there's a resource guide and there's some information in the PowerPoints that Matt's going to cover a little bit later in the program that you'll want to make sure you stick around for, because he's going to talk you through how to get access to some of these tools or how you can find an easy website. But what's your favorite site for people to be able to be able to create QR codes, particularly if they're looking to create a QR code that promotes their mobile app?
Yeah, so there's a website called zxing.appspot.com. That's zxing.appspot.com/generator. Now, it's a very plain site, very basic, but the cool part about it is that when it generates a QR code, the QR code has the actual data that you told it to put into the QR code. Some websites where you go and generate a QR code, and they look very flashy and very fancy, but what they do is they first have a link go to their website, and their website then forwards to wherever you wanted it to go. I've personally experienced of generating QR codes, and at some point down the road, months later, it starts displaying an ad before it lets people continue to where you were going to send people. And that's exactly the opposite of what you want. So zxing.appspot.com. We've got the link in the resources a little bit later, but they have a QR code generator that actually does not have the ability to insert ads. So that's the one I'd recommend to stick with.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, in the interest of time, let's go ahead and move into, because I know we got a lot of ground to cover today as well.
Yeah, so I guess mobilizing your website. If your website's not mobile, it's a good idea to get it mobile. When people come to your website from their phone, they usually are looking to get a hold of you. They want to take action at that moment. And if your website is configured to allow them to take action at that moment, then you're going to be way ahead of the game. As you can see here, I use a tool to take maximum acceleration, and in literally about 30 seconds, I generated a mobile version of the website. And that website is dudamobile.com. That website it's very cool. So if you get a chance after the webinar, make it a point to go to dudamobile.com, and it'll walk you through how to make your website into something that people can take action on instantly. All you do is put in your website URL, and it automatically generates a mobile website for you, and then tells you how to insert it into your website. So when people come to your website, then that mobile version. Very cool tool.
First, here's one you did for a loan officer, again, using the same tool that does very similar approach. You know, take your basic company-provided website and very quickly and easily convert it to mobile format. Why is this important, guys? Because, you know, keep in mind, when people are searching your website on your mobile, if they can't read the website or if the website's too difficult to navigate via the phone, it's not going to be receptive. If there's any friction to them being able to actually make the call or to get in contact with you, like Matt said, if there's any barrier to them taking action right then when they have thought of trying to connect with you. And again, think about how your buyers meet you. Think about when they approach you or when they would be most likely to see you and would want to then engage with you at some point. Again, it's usually when they're out searching for property. It's usually you know, when they're looking on their phone, or they've got an afternoon with nothing to do but go out and visit, or they happen to drive by a house they like, if it happens to have a QR code on the sign where you know, where you can snap a shot of it and it'll forward them to a website. Well, if the website doesn't look good on a mobile device, a smartphone, your level of engagement is going to be deteriorated as a result. There's another concept I'll talk about here in just a minute about being credible and visible, but All right, Map. The other element of this is, okay, so when it comes to selecting a mobile app, what are some things to make sure you look for in selecting a provider? What are the things that make a one app better than another, which is one of the first challenging, hopefully I wasn't too hard on you, but when Matt and I first spoke, I think my first question to him was, okay, tell me why are you better than the other 5,000 apps that I've seen out there?
All right, well, you're very kind, although we are very opinionated on what makes something good or maybe gives an advantage. So there are categories that first you want to consider. One is your app a native app or is it a web app? So if you've got a web app, what it is it's basically a web page. Now, one of the advantages, which like we just showed you, and one of the advantages of that is you could ask somebody to put a bookmark to your web page on their home screen of their phone, and you can have that icon look like anything you want, and there are great advantages to that. When we were looking at that, one of the things that we determined was that is that when you do that, you actually lose the possibility of maybe some future functionality that could help drive leads to you. So we'll explain a little bit about what some of those things are. Now, native apps, which is what we do, they have access to things on the phone like such as sensors. They can utilize the hardware, such as we do imaging or image clarity that we add. It can integrate with other apps a lot more easily. It can handle push notifications. If you're not familiar with push notifications, that's a message that you can broadcast to one or more people that that is a message that really people haven't trained themselves to ignore yet. So it can be disruptive, but very powerful. And we'll show you a little bit about that in a bit here. Eric, I think oh no, there we go. Thought I lost control there. The offline access. So if you've got a web app, you don't have access to the app. One other thing that's important to consider with an app, if you're looking at one, is can it be shared or does it have some component? And can you prompt people to share it for you? So the push notifications facilitate prompting people to share the app at the right time. They don't have the app open to get those prompts, or to get you more business, or just or just for general good communication with your customers. And the other part is the virality. Now, does your app have a viral component to it? Now, you really want to be able to co-brand with partners. You want them to be able to share it with clients, and you really want to have the ability for that app to spread. And then you want your app to have, if you can, with our corporate solutions, and native apps offer this as an app store listing. So that way it has, it appears as though it's yours. You had it developed. Incredibly expensive to do when you do it on your own. But we do have some solutions for companies to have their own solution branded to them.
Yeah, which is cool because that essentially gives you that additional layer of credibility and sophistication that, wow, like you're in the App Store, right, where people are used to going to download their Facebook games and their driving app, or the joke of comedians these days is there's an app for that, right? There's an app for just about anything in life we want to accomplish. Well, here's your app that can be found in the App Store. All right, let's zip through compliance real quick, and then there's a couple of things I want to make sure we hit on as far as how to make this a really powerful marketing and lead generation tool for the audience, and go from there.
All right, so compliance. As we get companies or individuals on board and their compliance department's very involved, we have a common set of things that come up. This is a snapshot of just a calculation results screen. It's actually a little bit of an out-of-date shot. As you can see, it's got iOS 6 here if you're familiar with the different versions. But there are these common things that come up. We've got a license number that always has to show up, your NMLS number. Then state licenses also come up. So you can't see that from this view, but compliance departments want the state license listing very often, at least if you're in a state that requires it. APR down at the bottom here. This is something where it's kind of a funny rule. In Reg Z, advertising requirements, they've got a bunch of trigger terms. And if you're meeting one of those trigger terms, or you're catching one of those trigger terms, then you have to show APR. It's pretty cut and dry. So we have the ability to show APR, and then of course there are a variety of disclaimers, in fact, throughout the app that compliance departments like to have control over. This happens to be one of them on this screen here. Here are some other screenshots of compliance, just kind of showing actually an app that we did for a company that's branded a bit, and it has disclaimers and app store description and things like that.
Right. So a couple of quick things I want to say, and I'm going to back up to that one last slide. Guys, just remember that mobile apps are advertising and marketing and need to remain compliant with all of the TILA, RESPA, and NMLS SAFE Act advertising requirements. You are marketing yourself as an originator. You are providing access to preliminary information about pricing and cost, and therefore, because this is an advertisement venue, it does need to remain in compliance. As many of you are probably aware already, compliance is becoming the most significant cost of running a mortgage operation today, with the regulatory oversight and the extensive amount of resource that CFPB has and what they do. All right, so a couple of things I want to share with you really quickly that really come to, okay, so let's take this conversation further. Now that you've got an understanding of what are some of the keys to having a good mobile app, what does a good mobile app do for you, and what could it integrate, there's a couple of key things that I want to make sure that you're aware of as to how to use this as a tool to generate more business. And so a couple of things. So think about what are the biggest challenges or difficulties that realtors, and let's focus on the real estate community for specifics, because this is, again, they're the ones who are out there in the field. They're the ones who have the websites that buyers start looking at when thinking about buying a home, right? But think about all of your websites that realtors market on, Trulia, Zillow, and all these other different internet-based websites, because buyers start searching for property. I mean, if you think about the dynamic of how people have changed their buying habits over the last 10 years, I mean, 10, 15 years ago, the average family, when they decided they wanted to buy a house, they, the Homes magazine from the grocery store, they circled the homes they wanted to get more information about it, and they spent an afternoon driving all over town looking at properties, right? Well, with the advent of the internet, they can do all that searching instead of in the car. They can do it on the computer, and as a result, they're going to these websites. And even if your realtors are engaged in internet-based marketing through services like Tiger Leads or Boomtown or those kind of things, what you begin to realize is that most agents struggle with follow-up because they're getting all of these leads, but they're leads from people who are just barely starting the inquiry phase of the buying process. An additional challenge that agents are experiencing right now is this whole concept of buyer desperation and disloyalty. I mean, the fact of the matter is if they can go search for real estate on a website, what do they need a buyer's agent for? Or in most consumers' mind, they don't recognize or understand the value of it. And so as a result of that, the advantage of having something like a mobile app or something that engages them is it creates that level of access and continuity and reinforcement of the agent's value with the buyer as the buyer is thinking about all this stuff, because a lot of buyers have been tricked into believing, particularly if you're in a competitive market with limited inventory and they know they're going to be going up against multiple other buyers when they make offers on property, buyers have been duped into believing that they might get a better shot at getting the house they want if they went to the listing agent directly, which there may be some truth to that, but in most markets, a strong agent who can represent them well and negotiate on their behalf can help them overcome so the buyers don't miss out. So a lot of it comes back to the simple concept of how do you like to be referred. And this is a basic conversation you can have with your agents about what makes them unique and different and more valuable. And so from this perspective, I mean, if this guy were trying to sell you exercise equipment, how credible would he be, right? I mean, this guy who's obviously grotesquely overweight trying to sell exercise equipment is not going to be a very valuable or a very successful salesperson, is he? What you're looking for is somebody who's kind of like the Bowflex guy, right? Somebody who fits the image and has the professional tools to help the buyers accomplish their goals. So let's talk about how this works when it comes to an agent, right? So one of the things that you can do is a strategic conversation with realtors as you're introducing them to how you can help them. Talk to them about, what are the things that make you unique? How are you different? What are the things that separate you from the other realtors? Let me give you an example of this for just a quick second here, guys. At the end of the day, let's pretend that I'm talking to an agent, and I say to them, at the end of the day, Mr. Agent, let me ask you something. How do you like to be referred? Now, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to have no clue whatsoever what I'm talking about, and they're going to say, what do you mean? Or they're going to say, stuff like, well, I'm a knowledgeable, experienced agent. I know the market exceptionally well. I work hard for my clients. I'm always available to make sure that I'm doing the best job I can to make sure that their buying process is easier and faster. Well, here's the reality. I mean, think back to that credibility example. It's so much easier for me to say things about them that they may not necessarily be able to say about themselves. Like, for example, when I'm having a conversation with a borrower, it's easier for me to say to the borrower, Mr. Borrower, at the end of the day, an agent is one of your greatest assets when it comes to buying a home. Because a skilled, knowledgeable real estate advisor, somebody a little bit different than your typical real estate salesperson, is going to be able to save you a tremendous amount of time by narrowing down your search for you, saving you a lot of money when it comes to negotiating if you'll empower them to do something called a buyer's agency agreement, which they can talk with you a little bit about the P's and Q's. They can actually negotiate aggressively on your behalf and help you be able to get the home that you want and potentially at better terms. So I highly recommend that you speak with my friend Susie, who's a great agent. She's a true real estate advisor who's going to be, whether you choose to work with Susie or not, I highly recommend that you talk to her because I know the advice and guidance you're going to get from her is going to be well worth the time you'd spend on the call. Now, if I demonstrated that for an agent, that agent's probably very likely to think that I'm credible and that I'm going to do a good job promoting them. Now, part of the reason I introduced this in the middle of this type of concept, but by the way, if you want that information, those resources are available to you. There's an edification conversation, and there's actually an article that we'll send out in follow-up to today's program that talk a little bit more about that and how to carry that conversation. But the reason I want to introduce you to that is really what it comes down to is how do you make them look good? How are you to helping them look good? And mobile apps are one of the best ways to do that. For example, especially if you're using an app like SimpleNexus, you have the ability to, and feel free to jump in here, Matt, and share anything in addition. But one of the things that really excited me about when I started looking into SimpleNexus and what it could do for our coaching clients and our retail originators that are in our group training programs is how this could be a really powerful tool to, as a loan officer, giving something to your realtors that would allow them to offer their customers mobile search capability, which means it allows that agent to make a connection with a buyer they might not have otherwise been able to make when buyers are in that search phase, and as they begin to transaction out of just the initial inquiry phase, and when they really start getting serious about actually looking at property, when they become more of a trader and less of a prospect or suspect, if that makes sense. So, Matt, and feel free to jump in here anytime and share, how this actually works and how easy it is to use. But long story short, guys, if you can put your realtor on your app and your app can be delivered by your realtors, how quickly does that secure those leads for you?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. It's a great opportunity, in my opinion, to find ways to partner more with agents. You know, you can see the share by email, share by text buttons. If this happens to be on your realtor's phone and it's co-branded with them, everybody they share it with will automatically also get their info along with yours within the app, and then have the ability to do home searches, to communicate with you. Not only that, you get the leads instantly as they come in. You get a notification that they came in. You know how to follow up. So so I'm gonna move along here, Eric, if you're good with that. I think we're running
definitely.
short of time here. The next, Eric, you talked a little bit about push notifications and the process efficiency that come with that. Now, I think maybe I'm going to show this screen here.
Let's go back. Let's go back to that last slide one quick time. You know, guys, one of the things that a good mobile app can also do for you is push notifications are, by the way, it's those alerts. And, well, I guess I'll show. A push notification, guys, these are the notifications that pop up on your screen on your phone. You guys have all seen these, right? They're the things that remind you of calendar appointments. They're the things that tell you what calls you've caught or missed. They're the things that flag you that you've got a voicemail waiting, that kind of stuff. Well, these would be showing up in that same notification section of that person, that borrower, or that realtor's smartphone. But what's cool about these is you can actually set up campaigns that drive these push notifications. What's cool about that from a loan officer perspective is instead of having a email that sits in their inbox and they ignore, or a voicemail that they never listen to that reminds them that you need specific documentation, you now have something that pushes out to where they see stuff. And like Matt said earlier, those types of notifications are things that we as human beings have not yet evolved through how to ignore. They interrupt us and remind us to take action, right? So from a process efficiency standpoint, the other cool thing about this is some of the image technology interface that comes along with the app. Like, for example, you know, you push out a notification that reminds them that you're still missing that W-2 from 2013 for that job a couple of weeks ago. And by the way, you can control all this from the website backend interface. Out that notification, they can immediately scan that document into the app and send it to you via the app, which creates massive follow-up efficiency and a significant amount of reduced time in how to bring the loans in. But one of the really, really cool things that you can do with push notifications, and Matt and I have been going back and forth on this, and we're actually, it's not done yet, but we're working on it behind the scenes for all of you. You can actually use that as a way of mining for referrals. I mean, think about the ability to push out a couple of times a day, a couple of times a week during the phase when a buyer is shopping for a home. Hey, by the way, who do you know that might be missing out on an incredible housing opportunity? Who do you know that's renting and has a stable job but has been living in the same place for the last 5 years? You know, there are things that we can push during the loan process, and we're working on setting up a series of campaigns behind the scenes that are designed to elicit more for you and your realtors.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. By the way, if Eric is helping us in designing a set of campaigns that you can put on autopilot. And by the way, if by chance you haven't had coaching from Erik, he's phenomenal. He really is. Really, I mean, even talking with him is going to give you insight that will make you money. So I'd really recommend it if you haven't already. Erik was showing us some of these things for the campaign that we could put in here, and just incredible insight that I thought, wow, I've been blind. So so we're working with Erik to take advantage of that now.
Definitely. All right. Well, Matt, you know, you've shared a ton of information, guys. As we're going to clean up a couple of quick, I know many of you are asking questions about how to use of some of the tools and resources that Matt has shared with you today. This slide, here's some apps, some resources that Matt has been gracious enough to mention in today's programming. And of course, by the way, just so everybody knows on the webinar, one of the biggest questions we often get on these things is you know, can you get access to PowerPoint video. Yes, we will be sending out tools, the resources, the references. Zxing.appspot.com is one of those great mobile website. Or wait a minute, that was the I'm sorry, the QR code generator that Matt mentioned earlier in today's program. You can go to zxing.appspot.com/generator, and that's where you'll find that website. Additional reference materials that he mentioned, during the course of today's programming will be available there as well. So let's go ahead and hit some quick Q&A as you guys are filtering in those questions for us to go ahead and work on. There's one other thing I'm going to introduce you, which is Matt has been gracious enough to put together a couple of special offers for our audience today that I think are just absolutely incredible that he's going to be doing for all of you. If you're interested in checking out more about SimpleNexus or how to get an app for your company or for you as an individual originator, just simply go to www.simplenexus.com, click on that website, and that'll take you to it. Also, if you would like to receive a free consultation, with Matt or his tech team in how to set up a mobile app for your company, they are filled on a first-come, first-served basis, so I want to encourage you to take action quickly. In fact, let's do this. It's a little bit different approach than maybe how we sometimes do this, but guys, if you're serious about doing something with mobile and you want to have a mobile presence in your community, you want to be the technology resource that allows your agents to do a lot of the cool things that we've talked about today, and be that true business development partner, it's a significantly stronger result for them than what they would be able to accomplish on their own. Kind of like that horsepower 8 times results thing that we talked about at the beginning of the program. I'm going to encourage you to take action right now. Go ahead and post in the Q&A section of the webinar right now that you would like one of those app setup consultations with Matt and his team. Go ahead and post the best phone number and email address directly into the website Q&A platform right now, and Matt and his team will connect with you to get you scheduled for one of those consultations. Again, you can go ahead and sign up directly from the website as well to get the mobile app, and any of you that go ahead and sign up here for in the next, I think Matt, you said put a deadline on it of like 5 o'clock this afternoon, right? So
yeah,
any of you should sign up.
That'd be great.
Okay, and like I said, I'm sorry to throw that at you, Matt, on the fly here, but we've got, I mean, I know you don't have millions of, I know you don't have unlimited capacity for that, but definitely want to make sure that those of you who are serious about taking action get some, and again, 2 things required. 1, go ahead and go to the website, sign up, register, create your account, and Matt and his team will contact you to get you that free consultation for setting up your app and getting you going. Very, very cost effective, very limited expense, even on an individual basis if you don't have corporate access. Although if you are connected with a larger company and you want to, work with Matt and his team about helping your entire company come online, they're more than happy to do that on an enterprise level scale. They work with some of the biggest and best mortgage companies in the United States, providing their app for them. And they're, in my opinion, really, after having spent some time doing some research about the different app companies that are out there, there isn't anybody better than SimpleNexus. All right, so as you guys are continuing to posting questions, like to comment. All right, so let me read through the questions really, really quickly here, and let's see if we can address a couple of these quick ones. By the way, for any of you that want to hang around, we are going to be addressing, and just by the way, I just want you all to know, if you are serious about taking your business to the next level and you would like some information about what we do at Maximum Acceleration to help radically accelerate business development and growth for originators, mortgage companies, managers, and executive levels as well. We offer a number of different programs I can share with you here in just a minute, but let me look at the Q&A really, really quickly here, guys. Let's see. I already have SimpleNexus credit report software. I'd like a consultation on making my website mobile. Okay, and great. That gentleman has posted his name and contact information, Matt, for you and your team to get connected with. Let's see. What else do we got? Regarding your comments to generating mobile websites, how would you recommend making your own website? Is there a way to make one look sharp without a lot of expense? I currently use Facebook Business Page and LinkedIn to advertise. All right, let me address that one really, really quickly, guys. for all of you listening, probably one of the best resources for creating a really sharp-looking website as an originator that also has a lot of potential to be utilized in other ways with increasing your search ranking and becoming Siri's preferred lender, is a tool provided by a company called mysmartblog.com, www.mysmartblog.com. Matt, I know that you and Michael are good friends, and you guys work together quite often, and you're a resource partner for mysmartblog.com. MySmartBlog.com is probably one of the most cost-effective ways of not only building a website for an individual loan officer, but also a way of activating that website and creating a conversation with your internet audience, building your search rankings both locally and regionally in the market, and making sure that you have control over the content and quality material that your potential audience sees for you. And again, that website is www.mysmartblog.com that you all can engage with. All right, let's see. Program to effectively add an agent. Let's see. I would like to visit with you soon on how to effectively add an agent to co-brand, etc., where their info shows up when they pass along the app I've sent to the agent, and then they can pass on. Okay. General advice, Matt, do you have any guidance or feedback for Cameron here on how and where to get an agent to pass on their information?
Yeah. So when an agent is along the app, so there are a couple of things. Maybe I should back up just a little bit. When an agent installs your app, you can go in on your website dashboard, and you can then enter the agent's info and turn that on inside of their app so it automatically shows up. So now you're co-branded with them, and everybody they share it with will automatically get their info inside of the app already. It's going to show alongside yours, and so they're compelled to share it, and there's nothing that they have to do if you don't want. If you also would like, they can get notified of new leads that come in based on everything that they've shared. So if they're sharing it out with people, they can get notified of those leads as well and help realize the benefit alongside you.
So, Matt, if what you're saying is, and correct me if I'm misunderstanding what you just said, but basically getting the agents to share, let's say I'm a loan officer. If I want my agent to share my app, I don't necessarily have to talk to the agent about sharing my app. I just get them to download my app and encourage them to share what essentially becomes their app, right? And every time that a consumer downloads, a borrower downloads their app, they're in effect downloading my app as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, and a way that I think is nice to word it, and you can say their app, but also there's an app that I think that we can utilize to work together to generate more business for both of us. And if the person says, yeah, sounds great, say, okay, what I'm going to do is share it with you, install it, and then I'm going to make your information show up. And then everybody you share it with is going to have both of our contact information. They're going to have these tools that you can utilize or advise. So I like to think that, hey, there's a tool we could use together that would work out great. And you can do this any number of realtors. So you can, it doesn't have to be one realtor at a time. You purchase the app once, and it doesn't matter. You don't pay more for having more realtors. There's just the one cost, and you can take that same approach with all these different realtors and say, hey, there's an app I think that we can utilize together. How about I share it with you and kind of show you how I think it'll make us both more money.
That's a great way of doing it, guys. I mean, and like I said, guys, it goes all the way back to that leverage concept. How do you become distinctly more valuable than just the guys promising to get their deals done? the asset and resource that helps them get more deals. And one of the ways that you can do that is by talking to them about tools and resources that you can provide them that allow them to be more tactile and more engaged with their clients during that critical initial inquiry phase. I mean, it's one thing to get an IP address because somebody's popped on my Zillow site or has looked at a property of mine as an agent. It's a completely different world to have that person download my app and use my app or our app as a way of searching for property and initiating their home search within that environment. And keep in mind, sometimes it's easier for us as a lender to get some engagement with that client at that stage of the game than a realtor could. Because, I mean, again, think about the difference between somebody who's just surfing online versus somebody who's actually calling a realtor for information about a specific property. They've got to be pretty darn committed to get to the level where they're going to call somebody they don't know about something that's real expensive that they know the person on the other end of the phone it's their job to try and sell it to them. Whereas it's a lot easier for us to approach them and say, hey, I don't know if you're interested or not, and notice that you were starting to search into the process of homes in the market. We offer a no-cost, no-obligation home opportunity evaluation. It's just a way of identifying what your potential might be and what buying power you may have for potentially taking that next step into buying a home for informational and educational purposes only. You're not committed to anything at all. Would you have a few minutes to get that process started? And we can make that kind of approach as a lender that they may not necessarily be able to make for themselves as an agent, which means we can help them catch more opportunities that they otherwise might have been excluded from. All right. So with that being said, feel free to keep posting in the Q&A, guys. And there are a few more questions I wanted to address here. There are a couple of quick questions in relation to maximum acceleration and what we do. It looks like we've got some new folks on today that have never been on our webinar series before. So I want to make sure that I answer and address those questions because many of you have been asking, what do we do? What is this maximum acceleration thing? So let me address that real quickly. Actually, more before I do that, many of you have been asking about getting a copy of the recording from today's program and a copy of the slide deck. Keep in mind, guys, that we will be sending out a follow-up email that will have all the tools and resources that we've mentioned today, along with a copy of the PowerPoint, along with the edification conversation article that I was talking about, as well as the agent's endorsement partner edification scripts that you saw me show on the screen briefly. Keep in mind, though, that there is several hours worth of behind-the-scenes work that has to be done to copy and transcode the video into a format that will play in streaming media. So the recording of today's program will be available. Just be a little patient with us because it does take a day or so for us to do the back-end work necessary to be able to get the video to play and to get all these resources loaded up for you. So be watching for that. By no later than end of business on Thursday, you should see that in your email inbox. All right. For those of you who asked the question about what is maximum acceleration and what do we do, let me just share with you really quickly what it comes down to. I mean, think about the top performers in any career. Let's look at the sporting world for just a moment. The Michael Jordans, the Wayne Gretzky's, the Tom Brady's of the world. What do they all have in common that led to their phenomenal success? Well, the simple answer is they all had somebody to hold them accountable. Somebody who cared as much about their own success, if not more so than they did, that was there as a resource to do a couple of key things for them. Somebody who would, when they were down and discouraged, would pick them back up and cheer them on. Somebody who would challenge them to push that extra 10 or 15 or 20 reps or run that extra half a mile or do that extra 10 or 15 or 20 throws just to really lock in a key skill. It's that outside perspective that creates massive results. So what are the things that a good accountability partner provides? And by the way, that you could provide to realtors, financial planners, CPAs, business development partners, just like like a coach could provide you, you could offer these services and resources to the business professionals that you want to collaborate with and create that additional layer of value for them. But what makes a good accountability partner? Well, first of all, they have to have credible knowledge. They have to be somebody who knows how to do what you want to do. Why reinvent the wheel? Ask the question of those who have done it or have studied it in depth and understand what it takes to actually break through those areas of opportunity for growth. Okay. The second is we all get so busy being busy sometimes we forget to take a step back and look at, are we doing the right thing? And that outside perspective that a masterminding buddy, a resource partner, a collaborator could provide you, because they're not stuck in the day-to-day of it, and often what becomes the reactivity of it are environments, and myself included as the owner and manager of a coaching company. I work with coaches all the time because I do get too busy being busy, stuck in my own complacency, and I need that outside perspective to help me look at things from an alternative perspective and find better, easier, faster ways of accomplishing what I'm trying to accomplish. Of course, the third element is they're there to be there regularly. They're engaging and interacting with you on a consistent basis. When you're on track, they encourage you to take the next step. When you're off track, they pick you up and help you identify what went wrong and how to get back on track faster. So good, bad, or otherwise, they're there as a reminder and a buffer, a guardrail, if you will, to make sure that you're making progress in the direction that you want to head. But most importantly, they're there to hold you to your promises. I mean, think about it from this perspective. Let's say it's January 1st, and as a New Year's resolution, you want to lose some weight. So you decide you're going to go, right? So, okay, maybe you don't go out January 1st. Maybe you've had a little too much fun on New Year's Eve. So January 2nd, you get up and you run, and maybe you push it a little farther than your body's ready to handle. January 3rd, you go out and you go a little less far, and you're a little bit slower in your pace. January 4th, you go out and you're barely making around the block, and January 5th rolls around, and it's cold and it's wet, it's nasty outside, and you really don't want to do anything other than just hit the snooze and go back to sleep. So you do. But how different would that be if you had a running buddy who, let's say at the New Year's Eve party, said, that's a great idea, let's go run together. So it's January 5th, and it's wet, nasty, and cold, and every muscle in your body aches, and you really don't want to go running. But your buddy's going to be on your doorstep at 5:30 to go jogging. So you get up and go. It's so much easier to break the promises we make to ourselves. It's so much harder to break the promises we make to each other or to other people that we trust and care about. I mean, Brigham Young University did a research study in 1998 that really kind of proved this. You guys can read the text on the page. Basically, there are 4 key things they came up with that you need to do if you want to guarantee implementation. Okay? 1 is you've got to have a goal. 2, you've got an action plan to complete that goal. 3, you've got to have a commitment to a deadline. You've got to timestamp it. You've got to set a target completion. So step 1 is goal. Step 2 is action plan. Step 3 is target for completion, deadline. In other words, step 4 is you've got to share that deadline with somebody and ask them to hold you accountable and check in with your progress regularly. You do those 4 things, you've got a 95% chance of following through on the ideas that you want to implement, on the systems or strategies that you want to change or evolve that are going to allow you to achieve a significantly bigger result. So at Maximum Acceleration, there's a couple of key things we do. 1, we don't have any long-term contracts. We just don't believe in it. We're definitely, put our money where our mouth is. We're based on accountability, and we want to keep the accountability high for both our clients and our coaches. So at any given time with any of our services, there's a 20-day no questions asked cancellation policy. You finish the month of service you're in, and there's no long-term contract or commitment. We're not going to send you to collections or anything like that. Secondly, we offer 3 levels of service. We have our home study virtual coach programs that are topic specific. Like, for example, one of them I can introduce you to here in just a bit is called the Double Your Income with Power Partners. It's actually about 7 hours of video, but it walks you through. The video will start and stop and guide you through doing specific reinforcement exercises that actually, it's about 15 hours of training that's available. Actually, currently we're offering it for $247. It's regularly $297. It's available for $247 if you're interested. I'll share with you in a minute a site where you can get it. We offer is what we call group coaching. No more than 8-on-1 in a group. We'll usually associate you with a group that is at a similar stage and pace of growth. so that there's a level of consistency among you and the peers in the group as what you're trying to accomplish. And those group coaching programs are available for what averages around $400 a month. And then, of course, we also offer one-on-one personal coaching. If you're interested in taking advantage of those, probably one of the best ways to understand and experience the value of coaching I don't know, over time, the best way we've found to help people understand the true value of coaching is to actually let them experience it. So if you're interested in finding out more about taking your business to the next level and you'd like to have a one-on-one consultation with one of our coaches, we'll do a mini coaching session. You'll get some solutions to one of your biggest challenges or obstacles, and along the way find out a little bit more about what, if, and when it might make sense for you to take on some coaching. If you're interested in taking advantage of one of those strategy sessions, the best way to actually get access to it is just go ahead and let us know you'd like the 2 sessions. Go ahead and post that in the Q&A section of the webinar platform with the best phone number and email address for our team to reach out and schedule. Again, they are filled on a first-come, first-served basis. We only have a handful of them available each week due to the limitations of our coaches' schedules and their existing roster of clients. So if you are interested in taking action and taking your business to the next level and you'd like to take advantage of one of these strategy sessions, simply post that request in the Q&A section of the webinar here, along with the best phone number and email address for our team to reach out and connect with you for scheduling. All right, a couple of quick things that I wanted to share with you just as we are winding down to today's program. One last thing I want to introduce you to, by the way, SimpleNexus as well as Maximum Acceleration are both NAM. We are both NAM Plus endorsed providers, NAM, the Association of Mortgage Professionals, and both of us will be out at the NAM National Conference September 13th through the 15th out at the Luxor in Las Vegas, a great venue, great hotel, and it's going to be a great party this year. We already have almost just over 2,000 people already registered for the conference. It's going to be one of the biggest shows in the industry, and some of the best vendors are going to be there. You can visit Maximum Acceleration at booth number 430. And Matt, what booth are you going to be at?
Boy, I don't know. Honestly, I don't remember what booth we'll be in. Everything's crazy right now, but we will be there. So and we're also building the app for the conference. If you haven't registered already, I expect that, and I'd recommend that you do that. But then I expect within the next coming week or so, there'll probably be an email that will go out inviting you to download the app for the show, and that'll have a map of all of the booths and everybody who'll be there.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, guys, make sure you go ahead and register. Of course, the window has closed on any of the free registrations for my sponsors. We were able to get up until the tail end of I guess it was 2 weeks ago that cut off. Anyway, but I'll tell you, it's going to be a great show. It'll be well worth the value you're going to receive. You're going to have some opportunities to get some great education. Over 30 hours of programming are available. Myself and the Maximum Acceleration team are going to be providing a couple of sessions out there, as well as some of our great friends and some of our some of my favorite speakers on the planet are going to be there. Particularly make sure you catch Renee Rodriguez, who's just got an incredibly powerful message about mindset and psychology of sales and how to really connect at a much deeper level with your customers and create massive credibility with them in minimum time. Anyway, like I said, if you guys are still interested in attending, I strongly encourage you to make the investment and commitment. I mean, long story short, you're going to spend $1,200 to $1,500 total with hotel room, airfare, and everything. And I honestly say it'll probably be one of the best $1,500 I've ever spent as far as the amount of ideas and strategies you're going to identify, the connections you're going to make, and the opportunities that's going to create for you to be able to grow your business substantially. So I strongly encourage you to make that investment. I know it's those types of conferences that have made all the difference in the world in my career and allowed me to achieve the kind of performance growth that I was able to as an originator, and seeing the kind of expansion that we've seen with Maximum Acceleration as we've launched and as we've navigated the storms of the last 10 years in our industry. All right, one last thing I want to encourage all of you to do is take some action. You've been on the program with us now at this point, a little over an hour. You've invested that time in yourself and getting to the next level. Don't waste it. I mean, here's the problem. I don't care how many powerful ideas you got out of today's program. If you don't do something with them, they have no value to you. So you've got to take it to that next level, right? Define what are the actions that you need to take at this point. So do yourself a favor, and before you answer that next email, before you take that next phone call, take 30 seconds to create an action plan for yourself. So first things first, decide what was the most valuable thing you heard in this program. Like, for example, the push notification and the ability to mine for referrals in that push notification. So really, your first step is you need to sign up for SimpleNexus, okay? Second, what action do you need to take to make that a part of your daily business on a regular basis? What are the steps that you need to take to not only signing up for the app, but actually downloading the app, getting it, and creating your website and QR codes to be able to share the app? So create your action plan. 3, by when. Again, think about the Brigham Young University study. 4 key things you've got to do. Set a goal, create an action plan, set a deadline, and find an accountability partner. And that's question number 4, is once you've created that action plan and you've set it, who are you going to ask to hold you accountable to completing that deadline? Of course, if there's anything myself or the rest of the team here at Maximum Acceleration can do for you, please don't hesitate to ask. Again, if you're interested in taking advantage of one of those strategy sessions, please go ahead and post so in the Q&A section of the webinar, make sure you give our team the best phone number and email address to get a hold of you to schedule that appointment. Or, of course, if you're watching this on video, you're welcome to go to mxlcoach.com/strategy and request that strategy session as well. Also, don't forget that if you download the SimpleNexus app and you would like to get the free setup consultation from Matt and his tech team, you can go ahead and post for that as well. Please, by the way, let us know when you post it in the Q&A section of the platform which consultation you're looking for. Are you looking for the coaching strategy session, or are you looking for the app setup consultation? So if you could just clarify for us by going ahead and posting that along with your best phone number and email address, that would be awesome. Otherwise, guys, we're going to go ahead and close down the recording at this point. Matt and I are going to be hanging around. Any other questions that you